Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening in today. Today, we're just having a little conversation with Mr. Benjamin Rebeske and Russell Parker. They're both here just to kind of have a little chat. We're doing a little series with Mr. Benjamin and just talking about project success and what does it look like? What does it mean to each of us? And Russ is a subject matter expert, is what we like to call it in project
Oh,
management. SME, SME. First, Russ, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do?
I am Russ Parker. I am a project manager, but I'm also a project management instructor for the PMP and the RMP. I run 44 Risk PM. I am the bearded Risk PM on YouTube, and I work with Ben as one of his instructors for the PMP
You do, yes.
and the
What
RMP. Sorry,
happens? Oh, and the RMP, yes. And so what happens if you cut your beard? Then what are we going to call you?
Russ.
Just
Just
Russ.
Russ.
That's not nearly as exciting. So,
Nah,
yeah. All right, Ben, I'll let you tell us who you are just so, everybody gets a good brush up on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm actually very stoked about today's conversation because as founder of Corbeau companies, Corbeau Tech, our advisory, project management, project success implementation company, and the Project Success Academy, which was a spinoff from all the great successes of our consulting practice. We wanted to bring that to other project practitioners, the concepts behind project success, which is extremely and strongly tied to what Russ and I are going to be talking about today. I'm just delighted in our alliance with 44 Risk and what Russ brings to the table, not only as an educator, but as someone who lives it. And it's all about just having these strong relationships and bringing that out to other professionals. That's what Corbeau is all about and why we founded these companies. So totally stoked to be here. It's going to be a good chat today. Thanks, Amanda.
No problem. All right, let's get started. I'm going to hammer with y'all with some questions, and then we're just going to go back and forth. And we'll start with Russ, and then Ben, you can follow up with any comments you have. Why do smart organizations still fail to execute in project management?
what it really comes down to is feel like a lot of times it's complacency. People get complacent. It's so simple to do it. It's, if you want to go with risk management for an organization at the PMO at that higher level, that should be one of their number one risks is people just getting in the groove and going along with the show, So large organization, large things happening, a lot of, everything's going on and people just start getting into a flow and the urgency kind of just goes away because one thing slips, then something else slips. Those two slips cause a slip over here. And instead of reacting and trying to actually do something about it, they just accept it. They just accept that it's happening and we can't stop it at this point. Whereas, in the military, where I come from, is we used to call combat pauses. And I just wish more people would understand sometimes take a week and just stop. Just stop what you're doing and just reset, refresh, and then go. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep going downhill. And that is why a lot of organizations don't seem to get their project management going. It's because they get into a rut and they can't get out.
I do not disagree. I don't know what it would be like just to take a week and reset.
I don't, but I mean, like I said, we do it every now and then in the military, and it is frustrating when you're like the leadership sometimes, but at the same time, it is completely necessary.
I agree.
Yeah, like, for us, like maintenance is the big thing. If you just stop, everyone just goes focus on maintenance for a week. You get your maintenance back up, and then everyone goes on. You're going on with your merry day, So like, sometimes you just kind of gotta stop and do things. Or I would say is, and Ben would probably be a better one at this, like to kind of go with this, maybe agree with me. From the little I've seen in corporate America in my life, is a project finishes on Friday, on Monday, or I mean, your project finishes on Friday, but the Monday before you're in a kickoff.
Yeah.
So there's no reset time for the individual to take the lessons learned that they actually hopefully put together and actually learn, reflect, take that reflection period to go, okay, what happened? What I do? How can I fix myself? How can I take a course next week to better myself in something that I was running a shortfall on before I take on the next project? Because let's be real, is a 2 week gap for the organization to let the PM just take a week to reset professionally before they take the next project really going to cost you that much? Probably get more out of bang out of the buck if you give them that reset period.
Probably a lot less costly than the burnout. Yeah, no, I've been on, and I'll let Ben have this too, but I've been on projects before where like you just we didn't even do lesson learned because we just had to move right in, or we were already in the next thing and it was just the next thing on top of the next thing. And so I can relate to that, but I'll let Ben give his side of that too, because I know you got insights on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation, Russ. I'm going to piggyback on what you're saying about, why do smart organizations or smart people struggle with success? And I think a lot of it is if I'm really good at something or I've really figured something out, and smart is all kinds. I don't even mean just intellectual. If you are just, all of us are just excellent at our industry, at certain capabilities and tactics in our niche area and things like that. To me, that is a level of smart as well, and why you're valued as a contributor in your organization. But with that comes certain responsibilities. And I think you're right about the reset being one of them. I think that's a great way to take a breath and rise above the can't talk now, heads down. I got to get this done. I got it figured out. And I totally get that. I really do. I'm going to take it to the next level though, and even challenge you guys. I think what Corbeau has had success with implementing some of our executive PMOs is, yes, honoring and empowering those smart folks in that smart organization. Having a reset is a way to do it, but really it comes back to conviction. And what I mean by that is, why are we doing this project anyway? Because I think you have really smart people that are in there just, I can get this work done and I can knock it out. But, and don't take this is not meant to be some squishy emotional thing, but where's the heart in it? Because if you're crushing it with the brain, what is the tie-in mission? Is it bigger than myself? Is it bigger than what the project says on paper? Is this something for the team? So, one of the executive PMOs, the clients we work with, right? They're a chain of hospitals. I can't think of anything where there is more at stake, right, than implementing new clinics, right, in an underserved community, right, that hasn't had those health benefits before, vaccinations and availability of testing and just even education and outreach in the community, a new pharmacy being set up so they don't have to drive for 2.5 hours to get the medicine that they need. These projects are critical. And I'm guilty of this. I'll get into, well, I've got to just knock out my scope statement, and then I got to knock out my paperwork, and then I got to host a meeting and take the minutes, and then we're just trucking through it.
Yeah.
Did we do what Russ says, and not only reset, but reset as a team? Like, okay, we're coming up on the next phase. Why is the next phase important? What's the outcome going to be, not just for us, but for the beneficiaries and the stakeholders that are in play? And I think when you literally look at a stake, what's at stake with what you're doing, being smart is even more rewarding, because now you recognize, kind of like a well-oiled professional sports team, you're more than just you being one good player. And I think we all fall into that trap, especially we'll talk about AI, but I get all these cool tools. And I go off in Ben's little corner and I am super productive as me. That's not scalable. And I'm not caught up with what's important and urgent right now with the culture, with the team and things like that sometimes, because I just get so good at what I'm doing that I'm not necessarily resetting and reconnecting with the changing ecosystem, the changing environment of priority, importance, and connection. So I hope that mistake. I don't know, Russ. Have you seen anything like that, or from your
Yeah.
side, how does that tie in? Is team dynamics also part of that in your world?
Yeah. And that's why I try to say, like, people get fixated, like, they get hyper focused on a specific area. But I think you said, well, like, they get really good at one thing. They're really good at, you know, doing that one thing, which, if you ever taken like a Lean Six Sigma course, Like you want to get away sometimes away from that really good at one good thing, because if you take that one thing out of the chain, it throws everything off. So that's where you get into like the cross functional and being able to, everyone to do different things, which goes back to what I like to really stress is the education piece. Education is a reinvestment, but it's also it is a reinvestment to get them better, but it gives them also a breather in the process. Like you guys probably don't even know this. In the military, one of the things they do is they send us to school, right? And so, like for me, I went to Afghanistan for 6 months. I came home for 6 months. I went back for 6 months, came home for 6 months or for a year. And then I went back for a year. Right. So, no, I'm sorry, that was a year, 6 year. So the Marine Corps, I came back and literally 4 months later, they sent me to Quantico and I spent a year in school with a bunch of other captains. And their whole thing was, we're reinvesting in you. We're educating you to be better at what you do now to get you prepared for where you're going next and give you a breather from all that time, what we call the fleet, which is work, 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 plan, 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 do, 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 you know, to, like I said, take a step back. And like you're saying, get out of the focus of being what I'm really good at. Cause I was really good at being a logistician in transportation. But now I'm sitting in a room with an engineer, a guy who's artillery, some infantry, a guy that was special forces, supply. I got them all, and aviators. I have them all around me. And now we're coming in talking about case studies. We're going over different type of planning events. We're learning how to plan better. And I'm learning more about what they do, how good they are at their jobs. And in turn, you leave that school and you are ready to just start planning out, back in the fleet. They send you back into those forces. And, that you're not going to see anything like that in corporate America. Like they're not, but I just, finding a way to scale that down for individuals can do dividends, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Even from a personal level, like last summer, I took some time and just like sat out by the pool and took a whole bunch of classes on product management and how to be better at all of that and marketing and development. And it was probably like the one of the biggest catalysts that like put me into, okay, you're going to do something different now. You got it. You've been doing this a long time. And so stopping for a little bit, and even though I was still working part-time during that time, I was taking the time to just kind of sit in that learning and learn some different things, some new things on top of what the knowledge I already had was. So, and I think it's really important that we give our teams the time and the availability to do that they know this is an option to you. We want you to do it, and we want you to
Mhm.
take the opportunity to get these learning experiences and breaks too.
Yeah.
Ben, you got anything?
Well, I'll just kind of put a cherry on top with the investing in yourself. I know economically people see this as a lean time. We're talking about lean, but I get it. And the first thing that gets cut, we all know this, is self-improvement and training, even for ourselves. Like if I've got to buy groceries, or I could go, get a certification or an AI skill base score class or something like that. It's a tough decision. I get it. And it's a risk reward
Yeah.
situation, which, Wes, we're going to talk about that, but there is not a more important time to do the investment. And it's in those dimensions. Yes, it's in leadership, awareness, self wellness, and some other, those precepts of being a better and stronger, more capable professional. So, self driven, but it's also tactical and technical. Corbeau and Corbeau Tech specifically is a technology forward project success advisory partner, but we're not technology forward for the sake of technology. With all of the things going on in the current landscape, there's so many tools available. Wait a day. There's another one, right? That's a lot of noise. And if I'm in a profession like project management or being a or just even involved in projects, I'm a project practitioner, participant, stakeholder, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to wait for the dust to settle. I don't have time for that. And I actually disagree. I think finding a partner, it doesn't matter who or where. Start watching YouTube videos. Start playing around with some of these toys and tools. You've got to do that for yourself, for your wellness. And frankly, the job market isn't going to wait for us. So, obviously an organization like Russ's, Risk 44, has already done all that legwork for you, right? So you don't have to be the trailblazer on, well, what tools, what learning, where do and how do I apply these precepts? He's done all the hard work for you. Obviously, we encourage that, but I got to tell you, it's counterintuitive. If you don't invest now, trust me, the hiring managers, we are not even 3 to 6 months away from. I remember this. We talked about this offline, Amanda, where I remember when they would say, how proficient are you at Excel and Word? They don't even ask those questions anymore. It's just assumed you know how to use the net, you know how to use
Absolutely.
the That's not even a question. Resume expectations, hiring manager expectations, interviews are not going to be, tell me your experience with Anthropic agents as well as Copilot agents. And do you have any, have you been using Google or Codex or anything like that to just kind of do quick development? Because we don't use PowerPoint here. We do real-time React-based presentations 5 minutes before a meeting. That's going to be the norm. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's what I mean. Talk with someone who can help you understand. I remember when I was like, what the heck is PowerPoint? Why would I
Yeah, if you don't know, the same. We had this conversation, on something else we were talking, I think with Matt maybe, but yeah, we were talking about like there was a time we did not know PowerPoint, or we didn't know how to turn, we didn't have computers like this. And there was a lot we didn't know. You had to learn it, and now we have to learn new things. And so yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that more.
I know, but I want to close with what Russ is
Sure.
talking about. It seems counterintuitive. It really is the time to invest yourself, because very soon everyone's going to be shopping for it. And if you're not one of the candidates, you're just going to be on the back of behind the wave instead of surfing it, right? It's a missed opportunity. And we want that for you. And that's why we'll talk more about this, why Corbeau is so big on alliances and partnerships with, effective leaders like Russ. We handpick our partners, and thank goodness he picked working with us, because I send every consulting employee to him. We send students to him for a reason, right? Because he is on top of the needs of the industry like this. So I could go into it all day long, but I'll give it back to you, Matt. I just can't. I'm nervous for people, because
Yeah.
I've been in Project Management Institute for decades. I have a lot of professional colleagues and friends, and I get it. I get waiting. I get resistance. Oh, it's AI. It'll work itself out. That time has passed. It's kind of like I just want it so badly for people. Please, please, please get on the bus for yourself, for your career, for your colleagues, for your family. It's time to do this for yourself. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this series as well, because you are very passionate about it. And so we wanted to kind of like spend some time just talking about the reality of it, right? What does it look like? What are these different things that we're facing look like, and what can we do to better ourselves and our teams in the process? All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about risk, which is Russ's main thing. Has risk management become too passive, and what does modern risk leadership actually look like in today's day and age?
Yeah, I mean, that rolls right with what we've been talking about. People are busy, and because they're busy, it becomes passive. They fill out the register, they kind of go through the motions, but they don't put the mindset into it. They don't actually do what actually matters. And the one thing I'm a huge component of, I will preach it every day, is the risk workshop. Just bringing teams together for, depending on the size of your project, 1 hour, or you can be a couple days, where you all just sit in a room and you go, what could go wrong? What could go right? Brainstorming is one option. Everyone loves to use it. Oh, we're going to brainstorm here for an hour. That's one option. You have multiple different ways to do this. And if you use all of them together, you can actually probably put together a list of risks that your project is probably going to go through, and you can actually develop realistic response plans, put them in logical order, so that way you go into it understanding what you're actually going to face. So modern risk management, AI can help out with this process, but it's one step. It is, you have brainstorming, Delphi, you have all these different techniques. AI, in my eyes, is just another technique. You throw that up front, gives you a good list. Off that list, now you can do some brainstorming. Now you can jump into some of those a little deeper, because the one thing that AI is not going to replace is just our personal knowledge of experiences that we've had around some of these different areas. Maybe in a few years, it can match some of that. But right now, your intuition, how you've seen these things work in the past, is going to be your best way to get through it. So modern, you got to do these risk workshops. You got to take that time to just sit down and think through it. That is going to help you out tremendously for the rest of the projects. Yeah, that's pretty much comes down to what I have right now.
Great. Ben, you have anything on that one?
Yeah, I actually want to get a little tech geeky because you were talking about, some of these risk approaches. And I think I'm also like you, I'm an RMP and I'm a huge proponent, not just of the certification, but the mindset behind being risk management aware. And so, you talk about some of these techniques. AI has allowed me to use them now at scale with automations. So I can even roll them up to program level risk scores, portfolio, and which ones are at risk. And should we keep investing money? Should we keep or kill? Should we pause? So there's scales of benefit of using these techniques. And I like that you help with your students and even in your work, like you bring these things forward. It's the best of what's in here, but now I can get AI to be like virtual Ben logging risks against my active activities or even future activities, which I absolutely love. I can't tell you that I've been doing project management for decades, right? And now you can actually start front loading future tasks with risks, right?
And also lessons learned. Anyone who's been doing lessons learned and putting some thought process behind it, load that into the AI.
For sure.
You are going to get more out of that than you've ever imagined.
Well, so, and that gets back, ironically, back to the conversation we just had, like take a breath, stop, assess, what's my lessons learned, or even just a quick active, after action review. Maybe you had a great meeting, a productive scheduling meeting, or like do an AAR, after action review, put that into your AI repository and run a risk thing, right? I do that. That's great. I do the same thing. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
because again, I just think about some of the stuff I did in my career. Again, military. Spent 20 years there for anyone who doesn't know. So I have a lot of mindsets that come from there. One of the things we did is there's a system called the Marine Corps Center for Lessons Learned. So when I got to the country of Bahrain and I was assigned to run an exercise in the country of Egypt, I'd never been to Egypt before, but I had to plan an exercise, joint exercise with all the other services. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be working with Egyptians, Jordanians, UAE, some European nations, like that's a lot that like, hey, by the way, you just got here. I know your wife's pregnant. You're still looking for a house, but we need to go to Egypt for 2 weeks for a planning conference. Okay. What do? I go to the Marine Corps Center for Lessons Learned, and I went back all the way to what was at the time Major Mattis, who became Secretary Mattis. And I looked at the reports that he wrote for that exercise. And I looked at every iteration. Even when I was on the plane, I had my laptop and I'm reading the different documents that these guys had out there. I spent 4 days probably reading. But if I had AI, I could have data dumped so much information, just been asking it questions, and I could have probably showed up even way more prepared than I was, but that's what so when I say lessons learned, that's what I'm saying is like, you are legitimately putting together formal documents that are getting put away for people to go look at. And that's what I definitely don't see in organizations.
And then you also kind of hinted at, and I think you're familiar with the concept, a murder board concept. That's a dark name, I know, but right. Have you used it not because of fact or a rearview mirror exercise, but instead a prognostication future exercise. And how have you done that kind of thing in your world?
So you're like talking to people. What will it be like in like 2 months?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
kind of did the exercise. It's almost like a lessons learned, but it's pretend, because you're pretending that, okay, it's 2 months from now, we were successful or we were a complete failure. And you're brainstorming all the risks and things that come out of that, or the lessons that could be learned if you were living 2 months in the future. Like, I don't know. Do you ever use that kind of future looking technique?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's definitely like a way okay, we're driving down this road. What are the things that could go wrong? You know, well, this could happen. This could happen. This can happen. Okay, are we prepared for it? What do we need to do? Do we need to throw an extra truck in there? Do we need to make sure we have a couple of extra bump trucks? Do we have all these different stuff? So yeah, that's like a natural, I think, a part of at least military planning. In project management, you definitely don't see it. Well, again, you got to take the time to do these things. That is not, do a conversation like that. That's not a couple of emails. Let's set up an hour Zoom call. All right. We did a good, doing a pre-mortem of like what things will look like in the future. But yeah, again, it takes time. And what I think a lot of times we just don't do is we don't give people the time because we're such a fast pace society right now.
Which brings us to our next question. Um, yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about AI. So as AI reshapes the project work, what responsibilities will be or already are automated or should be automated? And where will human leaders become even more valuable? And I know Ben's going to chomp at the bit for this one, so I'm going to let him have it first because this is right of his wheelhouse.
Sure.
He's the expert here.
Yeah. Well, okay. We'll use that term loosely. And I'm jesting, but I'm not. I'll just interject. The concept of expert is so fluid right now with all the changing technologies and processes, and frankly, the appetite of our clients. So one of Corbeau's biggest clients right now is going through a large technology transformation. It's SAP, right? And sometimes it's Oracle, it's SAP, it's Microsoft, but this is huge. It's a big one, multi-state, multiple systems. This one side is their customer system replacement. The technology doesn't matter. What matters is this thing is a massive scale. And so I've got multiple divisions, multiple stakeholders and leaders, vice presidents, directors on multiple states, and they're all impacted by this change. And so as we're going through blueprinting and pre-design work and all of that, a lot of people are involved in understanding the impacts to their business area. Oh, wait, I have to change the way I do my job. That makes sense, right? The way they handle shipping and receiving or materials management, the way that they're going to handle customer interactions, the way they're going to handle taxes and legal jurisdictions across state lines, all of those things can be impacted. And so people care. My job is changing. Now, I say stakeholders are, that's why we do what we do. We talked about purpose and mission behind the big projects and programs that we run, but it's also the risk to them from their standpoint. So it's kind of like for those of you out there in the audience who do Scrum or even just Kanban user stories. It's like, as a blank, I want to do blank so that I can. Now I'm bringing that up because that concept of user focus also helps in terms of setting up risks for our projects. So I got all these stakeholders. I've identified their risks. They all have different risk tolerance. Some are like, it's good. We'll figure it out when we're done. Some are like, I need to know every little thing before I make a decision because it affects regulatory or audit and those kind of things. And so there's an art, the human side of what we do, and I'm getting into the AI part in a second. There's that human side that's so important, but you have to imagine, and I know several program managers and project managers out there have dealt with this. You have dozens and dozens of people. I'm supposed to remember all that, and you don't now, because these AI tools, even if you're using spreadsheets, right? You could use something like Claude or even Copilot in the spreadsheet to have it auto create tabs, auto check formulas. You can have a stakeholder roster of everybody that's involved and columns of their preferences and communication timing, and someone email, someone phone call, someone in person. Once you've got all that, then separately you have your risk log. You can make sure that, hey, scan the tab about the stakeholders. You've identified the risks on this particular we'll call it the new tax calculation function. What doesn't really matter? Who's impacted? Are there different risks for those folks? And I bring this up because before I could do that as a human, but man, it was kind of grueling, kind of cross-referencing. And if you had time, it was a bonus. Otherwise, it was just a risk log of this is going to hurt if it breaks. Well, now it's for the receiving department, it's a pain score of 1. It's not a big deal. But for the tax department, it's a pain score of 5. It is a big deal. You can kind of calibrate these things and have earnest conversations and manage the situation and mitigations a little more fittingly because I can handle the volume of those larger risk registers using AI tools to run the searches, semantic searches, if you will, and understand the context per person. So I've had some great success with that on these big projects that people appreciate it being tailored and valid for their attention. How many times have we sat in a risk meeting like these aren't even my topics, man? This is an hour of my life I'll never get back. This risk has nothing to do with me. We can fix that now. We can work more asynchronously. We can focus in on just getting input and mitigations and risk ownership from the right people in the right way. So I've had a lot of great success using AI tools to frankly just filter the massive volume. And now it's okay to have a volume of risks. It's not overbearing. Now I wouldn't ship
Mm,
3,000 risks in a risk log. I would say, okay, everybody, here's the risk log. Go read it. I would never ever do that. What I'm saying is now you have a almost really a database at a higher volume that can help you protect against failures and setbacks, or even cash in on opportunities for the purists out there that know that risks are both good and bad, right? So I don't know, Russ, what are you seeing as far as scaling or using tools to augment effective old ways of working, if at all?
yeah, I mean, well, first I want to go just something like you were saying that I kind of want to piggyback a little bit off. I hate that term piggyback, but I want to. Is those tools are great for what you're talking about, especially when it comes to building out all these different documents. You know, we can build it, you can build them out a little more, you can put more detail, you can put all these different aspects into it. But the trick is though, there is a level of organization that we have to get back to because people have gotten really good at just dumping everything on SharePoint.
That's true.
And if you dump everything on SharePoint, you're going to confuse these products. So you almost got to, you know, anyone who uses Claude Cowork right now, one of the things I like about it is you need to focus it in on a folder. And then in that folder, you construct it in a specific way so that it's going to get you the outputs you need. So for everything you're talking about with these risk registers, you can have a 3,000 risk register, you know, as long as it's prioritized and everything's sitting right. If you have this set up the right way, you have it in a specific folder that everyone has set up on their computers for whatever. Now I go into Claude, I go into Cowork, I go into whatever, and I have my keyboard in front of me, which is funny because I'm actually putting my hands where the keyboard would go. And I'm like, you know, and I just put in there like, hey, what risks are impacting my section today?
There you go.
And now it gives me a full report and it can give me a line that says everything above this line is a in prioritized risk that is assigned to your department. Great. Now I know where my impacts are. What is impacting me? Where do I need to put my mind? Vice looking at a spreadsheet. I'm clicking over on column C to get it, you know, to get it to where it's at, but I have it opened and Ben has it open. And now
Yep.
I just messed up Ben's version because he was looking at, and I didn't click, you know, my view only. So yeah, so I think these what AI can do for what you're talking about is great. But then again, there's a level of organization, some SOPs you definitely need to establish around it.
Well, I agree with you on the discipline around not just creating a mess, right? You're not pulling the pin on a
Yeah.
grenade and splattering data everywhere. You know, one caveat I didn't mention during why the stakeholders' perspective is so important is buy-in. I mean, maybe I'm the only one, but I'd create a risk register once and then cricket chirps. Like no one touches it. Like it's the last modified date was 1999. Like, is anyone even using it and why? This has created a personal interest, at least in their own risk item. And they contribute, they monitor, they had comments and perspective. Now, to be fair, you know, we've been doing it for a couple months. I'd like to think that that means there's traction. It could still be a honeymoon phase thing. I'm not sure, but I will say it's the most interaction without me constantly nagging or driving or saying you need to do this. And people feel like they're just checking a box when Instead, they're like, no, I really own this because it impacts I understand the validity and the importance of watching this because it impacts my department or my team or my hiring or my funding or whatever it is. I just had better reception. So I think that was the caveat of kind of pivoting towards a particular audience. But I'll be honest, in my many decades, I will say the number, many decades of doing this, it's the first time where it seems to help because I can handle the volume because the search engine, it is organized. It has to be organized, but I could use like a cowork or something similar to give me boundaries around my SOP of regular risk updates, monitoring, things like that.
It just takes education too. I mean, but it goes back to, I think, what Amanda, you said earlier, you know, AI is not going to like take over project management, but it's going to take over the project managers who aren't learning this, learning how to prompt, learning how to put these, yeah, if you want to build, building an agent is complicated, but it's not overly complicated as long as you know what you want it to do. And I think that's what a lot of times you got, even for me, I was working on something, you really got to tell it, okay, I want at 9 a.m. when I log into my computer, I want a report that tells you everything that, all the emails I got yesterday, what are my top priorities, and it helps give you a priority list and stuff like that. Takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit of thought process. And in the back end, you get a lot more out of it. But it all starts with that education piece.
Yeah, I can.
You gotta start somewhere. And
I
that
think two
means,
things that I'm hearing from you guys is one, going back to the beginning of the conversation, we have to educate ourselves in our teams, right? And give everybody the opportunity, which again, we talked about before, the opportunity to learn, to have the time to build those agents and to learn and to play with it and to mess up and to fail. But the other thing that I really hear both of you saying is that it still takes the two of you, right? There's still a human. And so the AI is great and we love it and we're learning very much to adapt it or adapt to it and adapt with it. Thankfully, Ben's really great with our entire team and is always kind of like throwing us in there like, hey, do this and do that. And so we have the opportunity to do that. But what I hear from both of you is you're still part of it, right? And so it's not, because a lot of people are really scared, right? Like, I'm going to go away and the computer or the agent or the AI is going to do it. But Ben still has to run the program and Russ still has to tell it what to do. And so there are still human elements. It's just the point is that it's those of us who can get on board with utilizing these tools, just like we use our keyboards and our microphones and our screens and our phones. We have to utilize these tools. And so I heard that loud and clear from both of you.
yeah, that summarizes it precisely.
Good. That was what I was here for. No, I'm just kidding. I was supposed to take what you guys said and condense it. No, I wasn't. I'm just joking. All right. So Ben, you're often talking about ownership over empty alignment. So how can leaders create real accountability without damaging morale and collaboration or trust?
Wow.
Oh, it's a good one, huh?
That was a lot. So yeah, I think the responsibility of leaders as a CEO myself is that it's changed. Yes, we still have financial obligations to involve the company, and we want to take care of our employees to be sure. But this actually ties back to I think we have a responsibility right now reinvesting in folks. And you see it every day in the marketplace that people are cutting back and there's middle management is doing a reduction in force and things like that. And certainly I can't speak to every company's situation, but there's an opportunity here. If we start to create a culture where our team members are more AI savvy, and let's say, and I don't mean productivity from the standpoint of output, but I mean capability, creativity, right? So if I'm going to oversimplify this. If 1 hour of my day was spent, doing all the research, the paperwork, organizing things, sending a final email, and then conducting a meeting, what if AI, that's about 75% of the work was all automated? That leaves me more time to, you guys hear me say this all the time, as a project success practitioner, to be an executive's best friend. right? Now I'm less in the quagmire of what's your status and what are your risk items and how, let me compile everybody's risk score. Let me check with the vendor and see where their percent completes are at. All of that stuff is now done. I'm not saying use AI and make Ben, output 3x his reports or run 6 times as many projects at the same time. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm instead talking about project success of the pipeline of projects that we do have all of my risk items at greater scale, greater effectiveness and validity, just like we talked about. But I'm automating the brain that's reading those risks, organizing it. Wow, there's a pattern here. I wonder if I could do a little bit of root cause analysis, and it's going to recommend, hey, Ben, do further research here. Now I'm spending my hour on my toes instead of on my heels. Like, what's your status? Because by the time I get all that, I don't have the time to do the deep research and bring great valuable insights to my decision makers, to my executives. And this is what I mean by an executive's best friend. So if you want, as an executive, for your program, project, and other practitioners to come to you and say, in order for this multi-million-dollar initiative to get you your ROI, go live on time, stop the burn on nights and weekends, you've got to invest in us to learn how to use the tools. So I'm not spending my 8 hours a day doing the old stuff. It still is happening. What's your status? And can I compile a spreadsheet and can I run a right? But instead invest in my ability to use that new tool and become a divergent critical thinker with and for you. I should be able to come to you with status reports now that don't say I'm red, yellow, green, my risks are triggered, not triggered, and managed. It should be a trend line. We're headed up, we're headed down, and here's some strategies to get us back to green. Oh, we're red today, and I'm going to have some couple meetings and maybe have a strategy to get back to green. Our obligations as project success practitioners, if you've ever seen a Corbeau dashboard, you never just see today's red, yellow, green. You're going to see projected trends and the algorithms behind that logic. Remember, we're a tech forward company. Is looking at risk scores, not just to today's risks, if they're triggered and likelihood and Monte Carlo simulations and all of that on durations. It's looking in the future. So if in the future, let's say we're dependent on a big testing kickoff and we know there's supposed to be a lot of hiring, we're having trouble now hiring people. We know about the lead time. That data is at risk. And I'm showing you 2 months from now, we're not going to make that milestone. And here's what we're going to do about it, if that makes any sense. And I think that's the future that leaders want. Now, thanks for being with me. I'm going to answer your real question. So what's the responsibility to leaders? So you get that information and you can tell your shareholders and your executive boards what's going on and where you're headed and how you're going to fix it and make the green and make the money and make the ROI. You got to invest back into us. And it's backwards thinking. It's not AI is going to automate it. I'm going to cut heads. It's the heads I got. I'm going to teach them how to use those tools, have them build a culture around each other that's self-growing. So they're always teaching each other how to use these tools better, faster, smarter, safer, in a rewarding culture. So you're going to invest in their learning, not only in the tools, but in divergent thinking, because we're at a place we've never been before, right? This is an equivalent to, we've all been using horses and someone just invented the automobile, but not just an automobile. Like they've invented the Bronco. So I can go off-road, on-road, all speeds, 8 passengers. I can go anywhere I want. That's where leadership comes in. Because I can go anywhere I want, I have a responsibility as your leader to say, here's how you're going to use your new technology, guys and gals. This is your opportunity, right? So our responsibility is to reinvest in your folks, but on a new road. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And it's big and small, right? It's not just big corporations. It's our small companies too, with our small teams. It goes both ways. We have to not only as leaders learn how to use the tools, but empower our people to learn to use them as well. And then they can teach us other stuff. I know the other day we were working on something. One of our clients called and they were like, "Can you help me with this?" And I was like, "We're going to give it a go." And I told my director of ops, I said, "Hey, can you just throw this in Claude and see what happens?" I have no idea, and I know that makes Ben happy. And we did, and it was like boom, boom. We sent it to the client, and he wrote us back. He said, "How in the world did you do that?" And I mean, we told him, we're like, "Look," he said, he goes, "Was that AI or you?" And we said, "Well, it was both of us." And we said it was a tool that we used to make it happen. He was like, it was incredible. He goes, that would have taken me weeks to do. And we got it done. Another thing that I love that I'm going to throw in, which is like, baby AI. It's just like, I love to just be able to talk to it and tell it, can you do this for me? And I don't know that everybody knows that you could just talk to it, and tell it like, hey, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's, experiment with this or whatever. And I think a lot of people are just still scared too. And that's not a bad thing, right? And we've talked about that too. I don't think it's, cautious is okay at this point, but you still have to learn how to use this stuff and learn from people that know how to use it too. I think we've already kind of covered some of this too, but Russ, let's let you kind of talk about, in risk management, all that. Is the AI, is it enhancing we've talked a little bit about that, but do you feel like it's going to make these positions of the people who are making those kind of decision things go away, or is it really helping? And what are you seeing? Like, what tools are helping with that? I know you talked a little bit about Claude, which is like the newest best thing, but what else can you tell us about how these tools can help with risk management?
Yeah, I think it goes back to exactly what you were just saying, though, or what you're saying is that AI is going to help risk management. It can do deeper dives in your lessons learned. It can give you those forward projections that Ben was talking about. It can do all that, but you still want that subject matter expert to be able to look over that data. And as long as we have false information that sits out there and we have all this type of crazy information, it's going to hallucinate. It's going to make random things up. So you need the subject matter expert still that understands the process to actually make sure it's doing it the right way. It's going through the steps. It's not skipping things. It's not, you know, I mean, we've all been there. We've all used it and it's just gone way off. And you're like, stop. Let's go back. Let me rephrase what I was telling you because
To ask it if it's
obviously,
having a bad day sometime.
yeah, it cracks me up when it'll start going off and you're just like, okay. Like I'm just gonna open another tab and try this one again
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Totally.
Or you need a nap, take a break.
Yeah, like I mean, and that's why I like, some of these programs where you can bring it more, narrow it into what you have. And that's why I talked about the organization, because if you can get it to focus on certain things, it's going to produce you better results for what you need. Because if you just let it go willy nilly into the wide web, it's going to pull out some crazy things now and then.
Yeah. Ben, you got anything on that?
It's always going to be crazy. You're always going to need people. And I think that's exciting, if not scary. So you're going to have a lot of power in your hands. I remember the first time I rode a motorcycle. I always wanted the thrill, right? But you've been riding a bicycle your whole life. You think you know how to lean on a motorcycle as like you would on a bicycle or things like that. But you get that power and you twist the accelerator and then your brain's like, oh, I need to turn. And it just takes, there's no other way than just get on it, do it, learn it, and make some mistakes. And I think a lot of us get on that or think, oh man, I'm going to fall off the bike and I'm going to hurt myself. And really, really not. There are guardrails. There are communities, obviously learning agencies like Risk 44, Project Success Academy. And I'll come back to this and to give it back to you. I sincerely, truly don't care with whom you do it, but that you do it. I have a lot of dear friends in middle management and project management and program management. So talented. All the things Russ talked about. Decades of industry specialized experience. Experts in their field. And as good as that is, that's going to wane in the marketplace very shortly. Now, and what I mean by that is, it's like you're losing your voice. You can be the best in the whole world and no one's going to know you're there or what you're saying unless you have that augmentation of AI. It's almost like your megaphone, just so you can continue to have the potency that you have today. Again, I use the horseback moving to automobile. Like everyone's driving on the same road and you can be the best horseback rider in the whole world and the smartest and have the best message that you want to deliver from A to B. Get in the car, man. I'm just begging you because your business is your colleagues need you. You absolutely have everything that we need. But if you're not in the same vehicle with everyone else, I can't take you with me. And I know that sounds unfair and it sounds frustrating and it sounds frightening. this is not optional. I mean, we talked about this in the past. This is like when AOL finally came out and my grandma figured out what email was. That was a big deal. But once everybody figured out email, it was too late. Like it didn't matter your culture, your age, where you were in the world. Once that hit, that was the new norm. So it didn't matter how smart you were as a doctor. If you weren't checking your email, right? You weren't caught up, you weren't capable, you weren't connected. So that's kind of the analogy. And I totally agree with Russ. You are a very potent, powerful, talented person if you also augment, just start playing with some of these tools and skills. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think, that's one of the things that we want to do in these talks is just really encourage people and point them in the right direction. Let's do like a little shameless plug, go subscribe to Russ's YouTube channel. He's got a great YouTube channel. We have a great YouTube channel. So subscribe to our channel as well. Like Ben said earlier, you can just go on YouTube and you can have these, listen to these conversations or listen to people teach some things and learn that way. And then you can take it a step further. If you want to learn about more risk or you want to get certifications in these things, you can reach out to people like Russ at Risk 44 or Project Success Academy or Corbeau and many others. And I'll let Ben talk a little bit about how we come to these collaborations and these partnerships with people. He doesn't like the word collaboration. I do. But these partnerships with people and why we do that. And you spoke a little bit about that, Ben, that, it's not that no one has to use Corbeau or Project Success Academy or Risk 44, but we want to give people an avenue on here. These are trusted people, and when we've vetted these people, we know that they're good, and they're going to treat you right. So I'll let you speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in project and program management for a long time, active participant in the global community with PMI, IDA, and other institutions. And I've never seen so much change so quickly. And started to realize, some peers and myself, that eventually the big companies are going to get there and they're going to change the norm of what's expected. We talked about that during this call. When you go for an interview, they're not going to be asking, what's your experience, your years of experience, or can you use Microsoft Office? They're going to want to know that you can do multiple jobs through AI and various tools. Like, they're going to want to know how much you can scale, how potent you can be. And so I don't want the big companies to define what that is. I don't want a society of you've got to produce 3x just to get a job, right? And you're working 10-hour days, all AI, 6 times the output, just because they want to reduce heads, right? Head count or something like that. I want the integrity of the craft of what we do as project success practitioners to carry on in a healthy and appropriate way for us as working professionals. And so to do that, we need alliances of other professionals that believe in the ethics behind the proper use and healthy use of AI. We need to ally ourselves in creating a common language of how we would use these tools in the workplace effectively. We need to look out for each other the same way we used to do. And that's why certifications and things like that and those communities like PMI do exist, is so we have that common language to stand behind, whether it be the R&D, so we all speak the right terms in risk management, but whether it be the more famous PMP. Certainly, there's all kinds of opportunities with various AI certifications that's going to be coming out. But we want people on this journey together. We want PMOs telling PMs, telling business analysts, telling org change managers, telling risk managers. We just need everyone to get behind the fact that AI is used as an augmentation of who and what we are as professionals, right? More critical thinking, more executive's best friend, all the things we always wanted to be, but its job is to take care of the paperwork. It's not its job to turn us into output machines, right? And I could go all day about that, but I think wellness and AI, all of that, those regulatory controls are years and years away. So it's up to us as professionals to define what amazing is and what healthy is. And that's why we need partners like we have with Russ and his organization.
And I think also, going to what you said, we got to remember Parkinson's law is still a thing, right? AI can do great things, but people, there reaches a point where if you put too much on anyone, anything, it's not, you're not going to get the returns. So I think that's, yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, being cautious and careful and using some intelligence and emotional intelligence with using these tools, right? You have to utilize all of those things when you're learning this and playing with it and trying it out and all of that. So, all right. Well, I want to be respectful of y'all's time and everyone else's. I know it's been a long talk, but good talk. So you guys, just as a final question, do you have any one great piece of advice that you would be able to give leaders navigating the change of AI or risk or the risk that the AI causes or any uncertainty? And we'll let Ben lead and then we'll let Russ take it away at the end.
Yeah, I would say trust your people to be amazing at what they do. You did it before when you hired them. You asked them to be the expert in accounting or in shipping or in manufacturing or whatever it is. But now invest in them and trust them to do the same. And this could be baby steps. So if you get 5 people that use even a simple OpenAI technique for document management, creation, SOPs every day, that's 5 people that are 10% more accurate, more effective than if you looked at bringing in some consulting firm, and this is from a consulting firm, to come in and tell you how to AI your shop and cut half of your workforce. So think about it. That's all I'm saying is think about it, run some scenarios, because if you cut the workforce and you automate, you're automating to today. Or you can invest in people being more capable, knowing that technology is going to keep changing and that the people know how to handle it and scale it, and they grow with you and grow the company for you as a culture, as a team. So food for thought.
Take it away, Russ.
Yeah, from my side of the house, I'd say I'm going to go lower than what Ben's looking at. I'm going to say is if you're listening and you're like, wow, this all sounds great. You have no clue where to start. Just open up ChatGPT, just open up Claude and do this. How can you help me do my job? And it's going to give you some information and just start playing with it. Start, like Mandy, you said it, have a conversation. Just ask it some questions. It's going to give you feedback on how to use it. A lot of the things that I do start with this is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. This is what I know. This is how I think you got to get there. Tell me what to do. And it gives me information. I copy that. I take it into a different part and I run it and I let it run and it helps me get to where I need to go faster. But I had to ask it to start off with. So, you know, what's an expert in it? The expert is someone who's constantly asking it, how can you help me based off the latest update? So honestly, if you're out there and you're like, hey, where do I start? Just open it up and start playing with it.
Yeah, 100%. Um, just have the conversations with it, whether you type it in or talk to it like I do, which you might look a little crazy. That's okay. It's all right. We're a little crazy. But yeah, I mean, just try it out. I agree. I think, I was having I don't remember which conversation because I've been having a lot of them lately. But I was having a conversation with somebody. I think the most of the things that I have learned throughout my career have been things that I have just figured out. You know what I mean? The certifications are great. The trainings are great. I'm not knocking it. That's, where we stand on a lot of things. And so I'm a proponent for all of those things as well. But I think you have to dig in and you have to try things out to figure it out and to really get a good grasp of it. So, all right. So thank you guys both for spending some time with me and talking to me. And so we're going to put all the information below this video about how to contact Russ, how to get to his website and his blog. He has some really cool stuff that he does that we didn't really get into today, but go check him out. You can take his courses and he can explain more about that to you. And then we'll also put the information for Corbeau and how you can reach our team at Corbeau and Ben and Project Success Academy. So if you're looking to get better at all of this or learn more about it, you can also just ask us questions. We're happy. We're all of us, I think, really willing to answer any questions anybody has. So thank you guys for spending some time with me and having this conversation and helping people understand a little bit better.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.